You're watching ChalkTalk, presented by United Auto Sales. And welcome back. As I said before the break, the Gamecocks defense bad in the first half. 307 yards they gave up a total offense. Came back the second half, less than 100 yards, except for the last drive. Why the Gamecocks? We're seeing two different versions. A lot of people ask. I don't know, but we're going to try to break it down as best we can. So when you look at this defense, Kentucky had a lot of success the first half, getting first downs, moving the ball. I thought they had a good rhythm. South Carolina couldn't figure it out. But defense is also about adjustments. And I think John Holt, we may not be able to visually see the adjustments, but they make adjustments. And that's the reason I think between that and playing with better effort, they tackle better. You talked about the angles. They also had better angles until that last drive. They played pretty solid. Kentucky could not do anything right. But again, JC, the last drive, when they needed the most, when they needed to get the ball back to give the offense one more chance, they couldn't get it done.
Yeah, and that was just what was unfortunate about it. And like I said, give Kentucky a lot of credit when they needed to run the ball, get a first down. They did. Great play call there when they ran Patrick Tolles on the draw to get the first down there late. But, you know, when you don't play well on offense, when you don't score touchdowns in the red zone, when you get behind 24-7 in the first half against a team that you're a touchdown favorite against at home, you know, you don't have any margin for error. So, you know, I think that's the key really to the season moving forward, Corey. You know, the defense for South Carolina has shown signs. I think there's more talent there than there was last year, obviously. Right. I think they're better coached overall than they were last year, obviously. I think the defensive line, personnel-wise, is night and day. Are they disciplined like they should be right now? Are they maintaining that gap integrity like we talked about? I don't know. But I think that when you look at that situation, they need to be more consistent if South Carolina is going to have a chance for the rest of the year.
No doubt about it. Of course, John Hoke is a new defensive coordinator. He's calling the plays. Someone even asked me, is Lorenzo Ward still calling the defense? I said, John Hoke? No, John Hoke is calling the defense, and I thought he called a solid game. Hey, they gave it less than 400 yards total. They gave themselves a chance to win the game. Here's what he had to say following the loss.
You know, just we need to play harder. I thought they played harder. You know, the first series, you know, we get an interception, and we didn't play with that same, you know, we didn't play as hard and didn't fit the run the way we needed to, and that was the biggest thing that was disappointing. We worked extremely hard on it, played it better the second half, and just played base defense better and did our job better.
Base defense, angles, and things like that. He just talked about that. But the big thing is effort. You don't want a coach question your effort and your heart. Let's take a look at some of the good defensive plays in that second half. They were getting some good fits, but they weren't missing tackles until that last drive. This is a team, JC, that they do have better play at the line. They are playing with better fundamentals, better hand placement. But again, crucial times, they got to be able to come up with plays.
Exactly, and I think that's something that should come as the season moves forward, as they get more used to the scheme, that type of thing. The only problem, though, is that you don't expect for a whole half to go that way. And I don't think this team can afford for the defense to be in the gutter for an entire half of football, especially with Georgia on the schedule. How many yards is Nick Chubb going to run for if South Carolina plays defense like it did against North Carolina in the run game and against Kentucky in the first half? You know, Kentucky's backs are excellent. Georgia's backs are elite. Right. Georgia's backs, instead of being 180 and running 4.4, can run by you. They're 225 and running 4.4 can run by you. Nick Chubb could have 400 yards rushing against this defense if they play like they did. That's probably not going to happen. You have to have faith that these guys will get it done. But I think that's the biggest concern moving forward on defense is they have to fix the run game. You know, the passing game right there, you know, I don't think Kentucky really challenged them in that way. North Carolina did. But the run game, you have to stop the run in this league, in the SEC.
Well, against Georgia,
especially
for sure,
Georgia.
you better be able to stop the run because
no
they don't have not one, but they got three backs. Michelle, you know, they throwing Chubbs, and then the kid that was hurt came off the
Marshall,
knee. Marshall's now back, and they said he's looking better than ever. So that's three backs, new quarterback for Georgia. But here's Sky Moore, though, after the game, talking about, you know, he got a third interception, but he is the leader of that defense. Here's what he had to say.
You know, during the season, not much because, you know, we try to stay healthy as possible and we don't really tackle to the ground in practice to prevent injuries. But, you know, just the way to improve on it is just work on our leverage and just really break down and square up on a guy.
Well, you got to square up against the Georgia Bulldogs again. They're going to be tested heavily. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. When we come back, Brian Hanna, Spurs and Feathers, will join us. A lot of injuries still out there. Kind of Mitch, what's the situation? Who's going to be the starter? And we'll talk about the George Rogers statue that's out front. All that more coming up after the break. You're watching ChalkTalk, presented by United Auto Sales. And we're back. A little Georgia football on the docket next for the Gamecocks. They'll travel about 2.5 hours down to Athens, a tough SEC matchup. Normally this game is a barometer game. Maybe who's going to win the East. Not so much this year. Real struggles now for the Gamecocks. But one thing they got to do is stop the run. Chubbs, Michelle, Keith Marshall, they're going to run the ball. New quarterback transfer from Virginia. Didn't play well last week. The Bulldogs struggled against Vanderbilt. 131, I believe, 17, I believe that was score. But this is a team, JC, it's all going to come down to stopping the run. If they can stop the run, they may have a chance in this game. But we know it is going to be ground and pound for the Bulldogs.
I think if you're South Carolina, the running game is key, more key in this game than just about any other on the schedule. They have to stop the run, and they have to establish the run on offense. You can't go out there and try to chunk it all over the yard against that crowd with the first-time starter in Perry Orth, and decide that you're going to play fun and gun and light up their secondary. Georgia's not overly skilled in the secondary. I think they can have some success passing, but it's going to be important to sustain drives. It's going to be important to get the ball in Brandon Wild's hands. It's going to be important to have kind of some variety in the red zone and not just do the same old thing they've been doing, because obviously that's not working. And if South Carolina does that, I think they have a chance to stay in the ball game. 17 points would be the point spread right now. But I think that's kind of a worst-case scenario. Perry Orth goes down there and is a turnover machine. The defense can't stop the run. Yes, it's going to be a 17 to 21-point ball game. Otherwise, I think it's close, just like most of the games between these two teams are.
They do. We know they can run the football very well. That's who they are. That's their mantra. You got to stop the run. Well, it's now time for my Tim Hyde, my good friend, my old teammate, the warehouse keys to the game. JC, here's what I got. Number one, no shocker here. You must stop the run, control Chubbs. But again, if you stop him, get word from Michelle and Keith Marshall. Those guys can run the football. You always got to handle the crowd noise between the hedges. I played down there a couple of times. It's loud. Those folks get crazy. How do you do that? Well, you got to have some offense, some continued drives, some first downs. A lot of times that takes the crowd out of the game. And number three, Perry Orth must manage the game. Manage is the right word. Not trying to win it, not trying to do too much. Give the ball to Brandon Wiles. Give it to Sean Carson. Give it to David Williams. If they do that, I'm still thinking they're going to lose the game. And I'm going to give you my pick right now. South Carolina will not win this game this week. It's going to be too hard, too tough. They got too many injuries, quarterback situations. Who do you like?
I think Georgia wins the football game. I think there's just too many question marks right now in terms of both sides of the ball for South Carolina. I think it's probably somewhere in the 28-17 range. I think South Carolina will make some good plays. There'll be some positive things. But Georgia's running game is just too tough. It's one of the best running games in the country. Veteran offensive line this year, too. The Bulldogs are better than they normally are up front. So it's a big challenge for the South Carolina defensive line. I think too tough, too insurmountable right now would be my pick.
I love the word insurmountable. It is for the Gamecocks. It's going to be a tough game, but we hope they win, but I just don't think it's going to happen. All right, for Rachel, for Amber, for JC, Brian Hand of Spurs and Feathers, and yours truly, Pastor Payne, we appreciate you as always. Have a great night.